Good morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. It's my great honor to be the first presentation of this year's conference. Thank you, Vince, for the introduction. So today, my presentation is a part of my ongoing PhD dissertation about the platformization of culture heritage on the Google Arts and Culture platform. So here's the brief agenda. I'll be talking about my dissertation, the platform, and two recent features Google introduced last year, and my approach to this particular presentation. And I'll be sharing the result that I find after talking with some of the museum professionals. So to start off, Vince already did a great introduction of my dissertation, but mainly I'm asking three questions. How did the original Google Art project, if you remember, evolve into the current version of Google Arts and Culture? And what kind of affordances does the platform provide in terms of curatorial intervention, how it engages with individual users, and also how the cultural heritage commons is being, in a way, enclosed in the process. And I also ask, how do cultural institutions, if at all, use the platform? What's their motivation for joining, and how has the partnership unfolded in the past 12, 13 years? And to do that, I'm using a combination of archival analysis, content analysis, looking at the contract, and also how the interface architecture is designed. For the purpose of today, I'll be focusing on the final section, which is my ongoing interview with some of the museums. Based on our conversation, we found something that's going on behind the scene that you don't really see from looking at the platform. So the platform itself, if you go to their website, this is what you will see on the About page. So Google Arts and Culture is a non-commercial initiative. It's interesting to note that on 2022, in May, Google changed the word nonprofit to non-commercial with no announcement of why. I'm not a legal expert, but I'm sure there's a great difference between the two terms. So now it's non-commercial, but for almost 12 years, it's nonprofit. And for partners, if you are a culture organization hoping to join, Google promises to provide help in terms of digitization, management, and publishing of the content. And as I found out after talking with the museums, that's not always the case. It's a whole lot more complicated than what this page has to say, but that's a whole nother story. So it might be helpful for me to give you a very brief timeline of the platform. So the original version, Google Art Project, was launched in 2011. And by the way, these images are all from the Internet Archive. So some of the images may not show properly. So this is like the archival image. This is how the website looked on the day of the launch. There were only 17 museums at the moment. In the next few years, more institutions joined, more features were added to the platform as well. And at some point, the art project was one of the three main components of the Google Culture Institute, which all changed later on. But for a moment, there's a multitude of different initiatives going on under the term Google Culture Institute. In 2015, Google released a mobile app. But again, that's a whole nother story we're not delving into today. In 2016, that's when everything was combined and streamlined into the Google Arts and Culture brand. And a few years later, in 2012, was the most recent major platform redesign. It pretty much looked like how the platform does now, except for the purpose of today, Google added a small tab on the homepage that's Play. And that actually brings me to my first argument, which is the use of AI on the platform has pivoted from institution-oriented data visualization projects to user-focused gamification of the experience. So when you put the word play on the tab on the homepage instead of, say, learn or other verb, you are emphasizing a different part of the platform. And if you notice, for a while, for almost 3 years, the homepage always puts the today's top pick section on the top, where there are 5 different stories coming from different museums. Whereas now, it's almost always a game that is being promoted. So this is another way of arguing that in terms of content prioritization, Google is pushing more game content, game playful experiences, as opposed to traditional exploration of art collection. And there is another website called Experiments with Google. This is not on the platform, but there's a subsection called Arts and Culture. If you go all the way down to the very first exhibition from 2016, you will see something like this, curator table. This is basically a visualization project showing you all the items available on the platform at that moment. You can explore and arrange according to different criteria. Here is another one. So these like visualization projects are clearly aimed at professionals, curators, as the name suggests, or the functions of the museum. Whereas now it's all shifting towards games. So the play tab, if you go to the website now, you will see a whole lot of games being added on regular basis. And here are some of the main categories. If you scroll to the right, you can find more. So for almost 3 years, the games are adding up, accumulating in this play tab until the summer of 2003, summer of last year, when Google introduced two features called Art Remix and Poem Postcard. So if you go to an artwork, it doesn't work on everything. So there's like a weird selection behind the scene, but we'll get to that later on. So if you go to, say, this painting from our beloved host, you will see the two buttons on the top of the image. Some of you may be already trying to see how this works, but depending on where you are, this is what you might be seeing. So it works in the US and not in the Netherlands, not in Canada, not in a whole other country. So if you are watching this, you're trying on the website, maybe put in the chat the country you are visiting from and whether it works or not. So country plus yes or no. We'll come back to that later during the discussion. So I was trying to do a live demo, but I need a VPN for that. So I just recorded 2 short videos showing everybody how this works. So this is the first one, Poem Postcard. You choose an artwork, you choose a type of poem. In this case, let's just go with limerick. And you have 3 keywords. Let's just go with the recommendation here, the sea, cars, and the sunshine. We'll take a few seconds and we'll give you a poem, a limerick. Whether you like it or not, it's a whole nother story, but I want to draw your attention to the format, the layout. First of all, there is not a whole lot of change to the image, except for the cropping, of course. But then at the lower left corner, you see the title, you see the artist, you see the museum. And you can share this on social media, you can try a new one, but that's all you can do. Whereas the next one, Art Remix, again, you choose the artwork, and you can choose a similarity score down there and choose 3 different prompts, or you can just go with random remix. This information tab doesn't really tell you anything about the artwork. It's basically telling you the underlying technology. This will take longer, and you may not like what you're about to see. I tried another one, increasing the score to 100% to see what difference that will make. And this is what you are getting. I'll give you a few seconds to process. I can almost hear the silent scream coming from behind the screen. Whether you like the result or not, I want everybody to pay attention to, again, the design element of this page. Here, there's no credit to the museum anymore. There's a label that says AI generated with Google, and it says a painting by, which is clearly not the case. But here you can download the image. I'll show you what the downloaded file will look like. It's very small, but this is what this program does to the artwork you choose. You can play with it if you're in the US, or if you use a VPN to somehow use a different IP address. So if you download, this is what you're getting. It's very small. This is 100%, so you can't really do anything with it except for maybe posting to social media. The format is usually inspired by a medium by an artist. Somehow here the name is reversed, Monet coming first, I'm not sure why, that depicts the keywords you choose. So this is what art remix does. You see the artwork, you see the artist name, but not the original museums holding this artwork. So I found about this in the summer, and I thought that was interesting, but that seemed also troubling. Then I read about the call for participation for this conference. I was just about to start my interview, so I thought maybe I can include this section in my interview. So here's what I did. In my ongoing interview, I've done 17 so far. These interviews, some of them are group ones. Some of the individuals have worked in multiple museums that collaborated with Google. So in the end, for now, it's representing 21 institutions, 20 from the US, 1 from Canada. So the questions are mostly about the partnership and the use of the platform. But toward the end, first I do a demo, how this works using one of their images. And then I ask them, have you played with this before, or have you even heard of this? What's your reaction seeing how this works? And then what about the fact that from a design perspective, these are being added right on top of your images? Are you supposed to be in control of the page? So these are the three questions I asked during the interview. So I got the transcript, I did the analysis, and here is what I find. Okay, first of all, only one interviewee had even heard of this before I reached out to them. It's not surprising because as far as I know, there's not really a whole lot of communication coming from Google. I have a record of everything Google Arts and Culture sent to the US partners. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but there's no mentioning of these two features. The only thing that I can find is this blog post. Here's a screenshot, a section of the blog post where Google was talking about new AI features introduced on the platform. But somehow, as if they were anticipating the pushback for art remix, they only mentioned poem postcard. It says the feature is available now in select countries, I don't know which, and can be triggered by finding an artwork you like, and not every artwork. Photographs usually don't work. Sculptures, some do, some don't. So I'm not sure how the selection criteria has been determined. So communication, there's a lack of communication on the part of Google, which means there's no transparency as to why Google is doing this. And unsurprisingly, that's the most common question that I got, which is, why is Google even doing this? So my favorite comment is from this one. Basically, they're saying, these are interesting, but in a problematic and infuriating kind of way. Because there's no explanation of why Google is doing this, so it seems like Google's just trying, because AI is such a buzzword, but let's just do AI for the sake of doing AI. And because there's no explanation, the interviewees are all guessing or speculating on the deeper motives. Is it about making money, about commercializing, content, or some people even mention the gentrification of the web? But what they could all agree on is this is something for Google, but not for the museums. But on the other hand, several interviewees also mentioned the remix, the notion of remix as a really important cultural practice, and also a great way for audience engagement. If this is how a, say, high school student gets to know an artist, who are we to judge that this is not a meaningful engagement? So people were concerned, but there is a benefit, and they see the trade-off that's going on. If motive is the primary question, the primary issue is the fact that there is no credit to the museum. Again, you are seeing here, this is the image you will be downloading. On the page, you don't even see the museum. So this is the image you're getting. Because there is no credit, this taps into the larger debate about AI, about compensating. Many of them mentioned the writer's strike going on a few months ago in the US. Basically, they're worried about their job being replaced by AI tools. Even though some of these are in public domain, others are still in copyright. Just because they are available online, just because tech companies have been scraping this, just because this is illegal doesn't mean it's the moral thing to do. And that's the concern. And in the meantime, the fact that there is no credit also means that this is a missed opportunity for creating a dialogue between the traditional medium and the AI images. So one of the interviewers even recommended that maybe we can juxtapose the original image and the new one and have a conversation about how this works, what individual input you as a user got in there, and how this worked. That would have been a so much better version of this. And beyond that, there's a concern about confusion. Maybe for a layperson, they may be confused between the original work and AI images. And if those images are being used to train AI, then this is just a feedback loop of falsehood. And when it comes to environmental protection, there is concern about whether this is creating confusion for people to really know what's going on in nature. And the most problematic one is when it comes to indigenous artifact, which according to some of the interviewees, and I agree, shouldn't even be photographed and put online in the first place, let alone creating a new version using AI. So is there a way to stop these features from being applied to indigenous artifact? That's a concern that many of the interviewees mentioned. Control. As I mentioned already, this is only available in some part of the world. And as I was talking to one of the interviewees, they logged into the admin backend and they found out there's no way for you to opt out of this feature on the item level. Many of them, when hearing this, they wanted to go back to see the contract, but I had a copy of the contract. Basically, it does allow Google to do this, to add new features as they are being developed. So what I'm getting in terms of autonomy is, in a way, what I would like to call a negotiated autonomy. They were fully aware of the trade-offs, and they're accepting the loss of some control when engaging with external platforms, whether it's just putting stuff on the website or working with Google. It's just like social media, just like all the other Google product we use for free. But an important caveat is the fact that I was talking to the tech division of the museum. So the digital team, the media team, the tech team, they always mention that there's a larger internal dynamics going on within the museums. And they always mention curators who usually have a much stronger reaction to what is happening here. I'm not gonna read everything that's here, but basically they were more okay and more tolerant with this kind of feature, but they know, or they have been told from curators or the rest of the museum, that they really don't like this. So museum is not a homogeneous entity, just uniform. It's more of a multifaceted organization. This dynamic is something else that we need to take into account. And finally, I'm sure this will be addressed in some presentation coming up next, which is how museums want to see AI being used. That is to create high quality image description. So this is the kind of way they prefer AI to be used, not in this kind of generative image use cases. So what does this all mean? First of all, as I mentioned already, based on my observation, the use of AI on Google Arts and Culture has pivoted from visualization to gamification. And despite the generative AI tools being a relatively new recent feature, the problems, the issues I've seen here are more familiar ones. It's about communication, whether from Google to museum or from the tech division to the rest of the museum, external, internal. The clarification of intent is really important, and that will help them decide whether there's an alignment with the goal of the institution. And also, again, we talk about control all the time. When we are engaging with third-party services, are we really supposed to have all the control we used to have, or are we transforming our role in the meantime by engaging with them? And finally, we all agree that when it comes to living artists, the environment, or indigenous culture, there is a great concern about whether this should be done or not. It's not about capability, it's about moral rights, it's about cultural sensitivity. So that's my finding based on talking to the museum professionals. And to conclude my presentation, I have an invitation for the audience members. If you want to continue the conversation, or if your organization is working with Google or wanted to work with Google, feel free to reach out. I am still in the process of doing my interview. I would love to hear you, whether you are from the US or from the rest of the world. You can reach out to me using this form or on LinkedIn, or send me an email. That's it. Thank you very much.